there's a bit of a sell-off recently because I think since about the 10th of June, you've doubled your share price. Do you think that was a fair and reasonable reaction from the marketplace, or should they be looking deeper into the numbers that you announced in your PEA?
Yeah, no, I to back up your point, I don't think this was just a sell-off on the PEA. We announced literally the day the market started to crumble in general. Every stock started selling off when we announced that news. And when I look back at it now, it was like a bit of a perfect storm, was that there was liquidity. And as you said, guys who bought in maybe even at 10 cents had a chance to get out and say, hey, I don't like where COVID's going. I don't like where the election in the US is going. I'm going to take some money off the table. All of the long-term investors, including our two biggest ones, Kinross and Alteus, I've got no indication from them that, they're sellers. In fact, more they're supporters of what we're doing because of the economics.
Yeah, it's hard to know what the big guys do, right? What they tell you and what they do is usually never closely correlated. I mean, so how are they shareholders? I mean, they're obviously just legacy shareholders, or have they actually put cold hard cash in recently?
No. Alteus was really critical to buy the property, so they single-handedly they put up essentially $8 million to buy this property, right? And they own a small royalty, and they're an insider, so they can't sell a share without reporting it. And their chief geologist is, he's one of the top 10 out there that knows these kind of deposits. Did his thesis on it. Buckens in Newfoundland is the deposit, and it's a real analog to what we have at Pickett Mountain because we're in the same belt. And they had 7 lenses. We've only found 2 so far. Kinross, they looked at this in the original days and said, we love high profit underground mines. We could use some diversity with our metals, and there's enough precious metals to make it interesting. So they're too. Both of them are engaged on the geology and trying to help us find more. What they're after.
What do you mean? Like Kinross were involved from the early days? What date are we talking about?
Oh, sorry. Like they came in a year and a half ago in March. They invested at 20 cents a share, no warrant. Came in on the basis that, it's in our backyard. We like the grade. I've got I'd say a relationship with the senior management. They know the kind of work that Ewan and I do. So they're supporters, and they look at it as, they like our business plan. And if we double the size of this, they'd likely buy us. If we don't, they know this is a solid investment.
What are you, 28 million market cap Canadian? Yeah, about that. That's a company of size and note for them, is it?
Well, I mean, it's not about the company, it's about the project, right? There's not many projects of this grade with upside sitting on a highway with all the local infrastructure. And, they did the same thing with the Buckhorn mine in Washington State. If they go on to say this was our most profitable mine, and it wasn't huge, but it made the most money. And that underscores, a lot of these bigger companies, they're still all about margins, right?
Yeah, for sure. So why do you think there's a disconnect between that and what the market is giving you credit for?
Well, back to where we are, everybody still doubts, is the new mining code real? Is Maine open for business? That's still going to take time. This is why the rezoning application that we're under now, if we can get that approved by mid next year, it's a huge milestone for us because it's effectively a mini mine permit application. We still have a public meeting and a public hearing. So if we're going to see any major intervention, we'll see it in this process. Then, of course, the market still thinks generally 10 million tons is what you need as a base metal deposit, but they're not thinking it twice the grade. So to sell 5 million tons at 20% zinc equivalent is still, believe it or not, a bit of a challenge. And perhaps the only way we get there is finding another lens. So, we're going to give them another lens is what we're after.
Okay. And has the market told you that? I mean, or do you just think as geologists, as a technical guy, we need to find one?
Well, I'm actually glad you asked that question because it relates to 7 well-known analysts that I took to the property in February 2018. 3 of them launched, within a month after getting back, and those are basically Beacon, Canaccord, and Cormark. And the other four basically said, Ron, this is fantastic, but it's still a Getty Chevron discovery, and there's so much potential. We've got a slightly more conservative network. As soon as you find another lens, we're gonna write you up. So there's call it. If an analyst is telling me that, that's what the rest of the market's going to be telling me too.